A boy. This person was no older than 6 or 7 years old. They had a face. The boy was beautiful in a way that felt very strange. The boy's eyes were too bright, the boy's skin was too perfect, the boy's lips were shaking as the boy held his arm tightly. The man had blood over his sleeve.
I know.
There was a lot of blood on the sleeve of his shirt. The blood stained his sleeve. Elena said, "Oh my God," and then she dropped to her knees. Somebody told her, "Hey, it is okay." Elena was really upset. This person was trying to calm her down. The person said, "Hey," again. Told Elena that everything is going to be okay. The boy jumped back at first, then he looked at her. His eyes were really wide. He was very scared. The boy said, "They are coming," in a quiet voice. Who? He told me that people said he should not be there. The lights were what he really wanted to see. He said this and his voice was shaking. Elena swallowed. She took a piece of her scarf, wrapped it around his arm where it was bleeding. "You are safe now," Elena said to him. "I will not let anyone hurt you," Elena told him. Elena wanted to make sure he knew that he was okay, that she was there to help him. The woman really meant what she said. She was being totally serious when she said it. The woman meant it. Footsteps echoed at the mouth of the alley. It was really quiet. Then I heard the sound of footsteps. The footsteps were coming from the mouth of the alley. Voices. Angry. Sure. Elena pulled the boy behind her without thinking about it. She was standing up even though her legs were shaking badly. "Go away," she said to the shadows. "He is a kid," Elena said, trying to sound brave, talking to the shadows, telling them to leave the boy alone because the boy is just a kid. A person came forward. Then they just stopped. The figure did not move any further. The figure just stood there. The air changed. It was like something was different in the air. The air really changed. Elena felt it too. There is a feeling of pressure. It is like the whole world is holding its breath. The world is holding its breath. That is what this pressure feels like. This man came out of the darkness. He was really tall. He was wearing all black. The alley was not very bright to begin with. When he showed up, it felt like all the light was gone. His eyes were a red color. They looked really old, like they could see right through you. The man's face was strong and serious. He looked like someone who was used to being in charge. The darkness and his black clothes made him look beautiful, in a way that was hard to look at. The man's presence was powerful. It made you feel like you should not look away from the man. The man had people behind him. They all bowed their heads. This was no ordinary man. This was King Lucien Vermont, vampire king of the Crimson Dominion, ruler of centuries, feared by immortals, unchallenged by fate itself. The man was looking at a girl who was standing in front of his son. His son was. The homeless girl was trying to protect him. She was standing there like she was trying to keep him safe from anything else bad happening to him. The man saw that the homeless girl was being very protective of his son. The guard told him to move. One of the men who was watching him said this in a sharp voice. The guard said, "Move." He meant it. Elena did not. Her voice was shaking. She did not move out of the way. She said that the man is hurt. Lucien's eyes got smaller, not because he was mad, because he was really curious about something. Someone said she is a being. Someone else said that she touched him. Lucien raised one hand. He did this slowly and carefully. Lucien wanted to make sure everyone saw him do it. Lucien was trying to get someone's attention with this movement of his hand. It got really quiet all of a sudden. Silence fell instantly. The silence was pretty weird. His eyes never left Elena. He said to her, "You knew what this man was." He then said, "And yet you helped this man." She lifted her chin. She said that the man was bleeding. The king's heart is a special thing. That answer was simple. It was honest and it was fearless. It really got to the king. The king has a heart that does not die, a heart. This answer touched something down in the king's immortal heart that had been hidden for a very long time. Lucien took a step closer to Elena. Her breath caught in her throat. She did not try to run away from Lucien. The man told him that he could have been killed. He said this in a voice. She lifted her shoulders. Could he? The boy held onto her coat tightly. "She did not hurt me, father." The word was really loud. It sounded like thunder. It was so loud that the word echoed. The word echoed like thunder. "Father." The guard suddenly stood up straight. Lucien looked down at his son. Then he looked back at Elena. He was looking at his son. Then his eyes went back to Elena. At that moment something old changed. It was like something from a time ago was moving inside me. That moment was special because something ancient was shifting. The king said we had to go now. He told us to leave us. The king wanted us to leave him alone. The alley was totally empty now. The alley really was empty. Lucien got down on his knees in front of Elena, so they were looking at each other. He asked her, "What is your name?" "Elena." "The man told me that I protected a prince. I did this without knowing who the vampire prince was." She said, "I did not protect a vampire. I protected a child." Lucien smiled. He had a smile on his face when that happened. Lucien was really happy. You could see it in his smile. That thing was really scary. It was the dangerous thing she had ever seen. The woman was totally freaked out by the thing. The girl that nobody saw. Valentine's night arrived in the city. It was all about lies. The city was filled with people who were not being honest on Valentine's night. Valentine's night was a time for love. It was also a time for lies in the city. Red hearts blinked in shop windows that did not have anything to sell to people who did not have a lot of money. Roses that were once pretty were now dying in buckets outside the places where people buy gas for their cars. Couples were laughing loudly trying to make it seem like they were happy and that being in love could keep them warm. The moon was up in the sky looking big and pale. It was just watching everything without saying anything about what it thought about the people in the city and the red hearts and the roses. The girl was really cold. She was shivering a lot beneath the bridge. Nobody seemed to notice the girl. The girl was still shivering beneath the bridge. She was sitting on the ground with her back against the concrete. The concrete was stained with rain and newer blood. Her knees were drawn up to her chest. Her fingers were numb even though she had gloves on. The coat she wore was too big for her. It was torn at the sleeve. It smelled like detergent. She had gotten the coat from a shelter. The shelter had turned her away 3 nights before that. Her name was Elena Cross. She was 20 years old, homeless, and invisible. The city had learned how to look through her. She felt like the city was not really seeing her all. The city was just looking through the woman like she was not there. This was a strange feeling for her. The city had gotten very good at looking through her. People walked over her shoes without even stopping. Cars drove by. Splashed cold water all over the sidewalk where she was sleeping. One time a couple who had been drinking much laughed and took pictures of her. They called her a Valentine ghost. She had learned that it does not do any good to cry. The tears would just freeze on her face because it was so cold outside. Elena was not a person by choice. She did not want to be weak. The thing is, Elena was not weak because that is what she wanted for herself. Elena wanted to be strong. Things were not that simple for Elena. She was weak because life had been cruel with enthusiasm. Her mother had died when she was 14 years old. The places she stayed after that were really bad. Sometimes she thought the streets were better. She got a job at a diner. They let her go. This happened when she fainted because she was so tired from working 2 shifts in a row. Her boss told her that customers do not want to see girls who were sick. He said this with a look in his eyes and clean hands. Now she got by on the food that was left over, the kindness of people when they decided to show it, and silence when they did not. She had to survive on leftovers. She was grateful for the kindness of other people when it came her way. She just had to deal with the silence when it did not. The leftovers and the kindness and the silence were all she had to get by. That night she felt really hungry. It made her feel dizzy. The hunger was hurting her stomach much that she felt like she was going to pass out. She had not eaten for a time and her body was telling her that she needed food right away. The hunger was like a pain that would not go away. That night the hunger was making her feel very weak. She got up slowly, held onto the bridge pillar to steady herself. Then she fixed her scarf. The Nocturne Palace was a few blocks away. The Nocturne Palace was a nice hotel. It looked beautiful at night like a jewel in the dark. She was familiar with the Nocturne Palace. It was not because she belonged there. She did not belong there all. The thing is, she was not supposed to be in the first place. This is the reason why it was not because the place was where she belonged. The place was just not for her. That is why it was not because she belonged there. People threw away things in that place because that is where they put their trash. The dumpsters behind the palace were really full after events. There was bread and wrapped desserts and flowers that were still fresh. Elena did not like herself for needing to go to the dumpsters. She knew that being proud would not give her food to eat. Elena needed to eat to stay alive, so she went to the dumpsters behind the palace to find something to eat. The woman. She heard people laughing. The sound of music filled the air. It was a kind of music that sounded really fancy. There were lots of limousines parked outside the palace. The windows of the limousines were black so you could not see inside. The drivers of the limousines were standing still like they were statues. Valentine's gala night. Elena walked with her head down as she passed by. Her boots made a lot of noise as they splashed through the puddles. She was almost at the alley when she heard a voice. The voice was really loud. It cut right through the night. Elena was startled by the sound of the voice. The voice stopped her from getting to the alley. Elena had been trying to get to the alley without being seen. The voice changed everything. The night was dark. The voice made her feel even more scared. She had been walking alone at night. Now she felt like someone was watching her, like the voice was coming from someone who was watching Elena. Hey, you there? The woman just stopped moving all of it. She just froze. A security guard walked up to her. His face looked really annoyed. He said, "You cannot be here." Elena said that she was not bothering anyone. She said this in a voice. "Elena will leave now." He said that in a tone. "You street girls always think people are going to help you for free." Her cheeks got really red. "I am just looking for." The man said, "This is going to be trouble," and he took a step closer to me. He told me to move. He would call the police right now. The police would. That would be bad for me. The man was serious about calling the police for trouble. Her hands curled into fists inside her sleeves. She really wanted to scream that she was not a criminal, that the food bank was her hope, because she was just hungry that food bank people should know that she was a person who mattered at the food bank. Then she turned away from the person she was talking to. That was when she heard the sound. The sound was something that she heard. A child's cry. The sound was really quiet. It was almost hidden by the music coming from the palace ballroom. Elena stopped right away. She knew what that sound meant. It was fear, and it was trying to be quiet, so the breathing was very soft and could not be heard from away. Elena was very good at hearing this kind of sound. That is why she stopped moving when she heard it. The music from the palace ballroom was still loud. Elena was focused on the quiet sound of fear. The guard did not hear the sound. The guard was not paying attention to the noise that the guard was supposed to hear. The guard just stood there. The guard did not hear it. Elena really did that. She followed the sound down the alley. Her heart was pounding. The sound led her to the dumpsters. There was a figure near the dumpsters. This figure was half hidden behind a delivery truck. The figure was crouched on the ground. Was a figure. That night inside the Nocturne Palace, all the nobles were waiting eagerly for the king to choose his Valentine. The king was going to pick his Valentine. Everyone was really excited to see what would happen. The nobles were all talking to each other, waiting for the king to make his choice. The Nocturne Palace was filled with people who were waiting to find out who the king would choose as his Valentine. The people had no idea all. The people really had no idea what was going on with the situation. The people were completely clueless. The girl that nobody noticed was on the verge of changing everything. The night she stood among monsters was a night that would be remembered for a long time. This girl was about to do something that would affect the lives of people. The night she stood among monsters was a night. The girl was the one who was going to change everything. She was the one who was going to make a difference. The night she stood among monsters was the night that started it all. Elena had never walked on marble floors before. She thought that marble floors were really beautiful. She loved the way they looked. The marble floors were very slippery. Elena was a little scared that she would fall down. Elena walked on the marble floors slowly and carefully. She did not want to slip and hurt herself. Marble floors were new to Elena. She was being very careful while walking on them. Her boots were all wet from the snow that had melted. They seemed really out of place on the stone floor of the Nocturne Palace. The Nocturne Palace had nice floors. Every time she took a step it was too loud. It was like the Nocturne Palace was making her feel like she did not belong. Every time she breathed it felt like she was taking something that was not hers. The thin coat she was wearing was not very warm. She could feel her hands shaking. It was embarrassing. The Nocturne Palace was a place, and she felt bad that her hands were shaking like that. She was trying to be strong. It was hard in a place like the Nocturne Palace. She just kept going one step at a time. Yet she walked forward. She did this not because she actually wanted to do it. The thing is, she did not really have a choice, and that is why she did it. She was doing something that she did not want to do. That is the truth about what happened with her. The Vampire King himself had asked her to stay, so she was going to stay. The Vampire King had made this request. She was not going to say no to the Vampire King. Lucien Vermont walked next. To Elena he was like the darkness come to life. The servants just stopped what they were doing as Lucien Vermont and Elena walked by. The guards bowed down to Lucien Vermont without saying a word. Doors swung open by themselves. Nobody had to touch them. Elena felt like people were staring at her from every corner, from the shadows. It was really scary. Lucien Vermont was still moving beside her. The woman asked in a quiet voice, "What are these things?" Lucien did not slow down. He said, "They are nobles," in a voice. Nobles are more dangerous than monsters, Lucien thought to himself. That is what makes nobles so scary. They are nobles. The big doors to the ballroom swung open. The music just stopped working. The music did not sound anymore. The music faltered. The conversation just stopped. It is like the conversation died. The conversation. Now it is really quiet. Lots of eyes looked at them all at the same time. The immortal eyes were really focused on them. The immortal eyes did not look away from them. Elena felt it away. The way people judged her, the way they wanted something from her, the way they looked down on her. The women who wore those dresses stared at Elena like she was something dirty that someone had tracked into the room on the bottom of their shoe. The men sized Elena up, figuring out how they could get rid of her if they wanted to. They thought about how Elena could be forgotten. A whisper went through the hall. It was really quiet. You could still hear the whisper. The hall was big and empty. The whisper seemed to echo off the walls. The whisper was about something. I do not know what the whisper was saying. A human? The woman is homeless. How dare he? Lucien stopped in the middle of the room. He just stood there at the center of the room. The man did not raise his voice. He just kept talking in a tone. The man's voice was calm and quiet. He did not raise his voice all. The man said, "My Valentine," loud so everyone could hear him, and then he said, "has arrived." The silence was. It was like a big explosion. Silence is a powerful thing, and when it ends it can be very loud. The silence. It was a huge shock. Elena's knees almost gave way under her. Elena's knees felt really weak all of a sudden. A woman stepped forward, Lady Marceline, who was really old and mean. Her smile was of scary because she had been used to getting what she wanted for a very long time. "Your Majesty," Lady Marceline said in a voice, "this has to be some kind of joke." Lucien looked at her. Said, "Do you think being kind is funny?" Marceline became really stiff all of a sudden. Elena. She lifted her chin up. The thing that she wanted to do the most was to disappear. The thing that was inside of Elena was stronger, and it held Elena upright. Lucien extended his arm. Then he just stood there for a moment looking at his hand. The arm that Lucien extended was out in front of him. Lucien kept his arm extended. The woman picked up the thing that was there. She took it. The shock was really obvious. The nobles took a step back. All the alliances that people had made started to fall as they thought about what to do next. Elena felt like an animal that was going to be eaten, standing there with all those people around her. The nobles were like lions and she was like their prey. Then Lucien's hands squeezed her waist a little bit tighter, and that made her feel a little better. Nobody touched the woman. The woman was not touched by anyone. Nobody had the courage to do it. The people were just too afraid. Nobody was willing to take the risk. The fear was just too strong for the people. Nobody dared. Lucien said that she saved my son. He said it in a cold way. If anyone says something about her, it is like they are saying something bad about the crown. Lucien made it clear that anyone who insults her is actually insulting the crown. The message was clear. The girl who was weak is not helpless anymore. The girl who changed the king. Elena thought that the fear would go away. Elena was waiting for the fear to disappear from her life. The fear that Elena felt was something she wanted to get rid of. Elena hoped that the fear would fade away slowly. It did not. The palace gave her a room with a bed and a warm bath and some clean clothes. She still slept on the floor all curled up. She learned a time ago that it is not a good idea to trust things that feel too comfortable. The palace gave her all these things, but she was still very careful. She did not want to get too used to the things the palace gave her, like the soft bed and the warm bath and the clean clothes. Lucien noticed something was going on. He saw that something was not quite right, and it caught his attention. Lucien noticed that things were a bit different than they usually were. The man saw everything that was going on. He paid attention to all the details. The man really noticed everything. The man told me that I do not have to be scared. He said this one night when he was standing by the window. The moon was. It made him look like he was made of silver and darkness. Elena said, "I am not afraid of you." She was being really honest. What she was actually afraid of was losing this thing that was important to her, losing this. There was a break in her voice. It sounded like something in her voice cracked. Her voice did not sound the same. Something in her voice cracked. Lucien turned around. He was looking at something. Lucien was really looking at this thing now. For a long time he learned to not pay attention to his weaknesses. He had to be in charge and make decisions without feeling sorry for people. When it came to loving someone, he did it without getting too close to them so he would not get hurt. Centuries had taught him to rule without mercy and to love without getting attached to people. Elena did not beg. She just stood there. Elena did not say a word. Elena was very quiet. Elena did not ask for anything. She was really nice to the servants. Then she took the leftover bread. Gave it to the birds. She spent hours with his son just sitting and listening to what he had to say, of telling him what to do all the time. The king started to change. It was a slow process and it seemed impossible, but the king was actually beginning to soften. Not with words. The room was filled with silence shared between us. With protection offered before asked. When people with titles made fun of her in private, Lucien got rid of them from the royal court. He did this because Lucien did not like it when nobles were mean to her. Lucien took away their positions at court. This happened when nobles mocked her behind doors. Something strange happened to the servants when they disrespected her. The servants would just disappear when they were rude to her. This is what happened to the servants when they disrespected her. They vanished. Justice came quietly. It definitely came. The thing about justice is that it does come, and that is what matters about justice. Justice is something that people wait for. It is good that justice came. Elena said to someone, "You do not belong here." Lucien looked at her. "Neither did I," he said to her. Lucien was talking to her. He told her that he did not know either. That was the night she saw the loneliness beneath the crown. She felt it deeply, the loneliness that the crown brought. It was a burden, the crown. Blood, truth, and destiny, these three things were connected to the crown. She knew it. The crown was not a symbol of power, it was also a symbol of the blood that was shed, the truth that was hidden, and the destiny that was waiting. The loneliness beneath the crown was real. She saw it that night, the night that changed everything, the night that was all about blood, truth, and destiny. The attack happened when everyone was at the masquerade. The masquerade was going on. That is when the attack came. The nobles thought the human girl was a problem. They wanted to get rid of her. So they decided to use ways to do it. Blades hidden in silk. Poison in wine. The human girl did not know what the nobles had planned for her. The nobles had decided the human girl was a weakness they could not afford to have. They were wrong. Elena was trapped in the rose corridor. She was really scared. This fear was like something squeezing her chest. Then something inside of her took charge. Elena started talking. The words just came out of her mouth. The weird thing was that she was speaking a language that she had never studied or heard before. The words just kept coming out of her mouth in this language that she did not know. Elena was saying all these things in the rose corridor. Ancient. Powerful. The walls really trembled. This was a deal. The walls were trembling. Lucien felt something from all the way across the palace. He could sense it, this feeling that was coming from across the palace, and it was really strong. Lucien was aware of this sensation that was coming from across the palace. He came in a mess of blood and he was really angry. The blood was everywhere. He was furious. He arrived in a storm of blood and fury. It was a sight to see, the blood and the fury that surrounded him, the blood and fury that seemed to follow him everywhere. Elena stood there when it was over. She was shaking badly. Her eyes were glowing a bit. Elena's hands were stained with this stuff that she did not understand at all. The magic was over Elena's hands. The woman said to herself, "What am I?" she whispered quietly. Lucien got down on his knees in front of her. "The man told me that I was the one." He said it in a respectful way. He said, "You are chosen. This did not happen because of my family. It happened because of my soul." The man said this to me. He said, "Not by blood. By soul." The truth came out. Elena's mother was part of a group that protected people. She was a being, but she had a special connection to old magic that was meant to keep the vampires from getting too powerful. This magic was supposed to balance out the power of the vampires. Elena's mother played a role in this, being part of a hidden guardian line. Not a servant. Not prey. A queen. She has the crown that she never asked for. The crown is a responsibility, and it is not something that she wanted. The queen has to wear the crown and do all the things that come with it. The crown is a symbol of power and royalty. It is also a heavy burden. The queen has to deal with a lot of things because of the crown that she never asked for. Valentine's night came back 1 year later. It was Valentine's night again. The city was glowing again. This time the city was not hiding anything. The lie that was in the city was gone now. The city glowed again. It was a beautiful thing to see the city like that. Elena walked beside Lucien. She was not just a guest. She was not there because he felt sorry for her. Elena was there as Lucien's equal. Elena did not wear any jewelry that showed off her wealth. The only thing Elena wore on her head was a crown. This crown was made because of the promises Elena made and the choices Elena had. The same nobles who once made fun of her now bowed down to her. Those nobles who used to laugh at her, they are now bowing to the same woman. The nobles are showing respect to her. She remembered the bridge. She also remembered the hunger she felt and the cold that was around her. The hunger was something that stuck with her, and the cold was something she could not forget. The bridge and the hunger and the cold were all things that she remembered clearly. The woman did not forget this thing. She remembered it clearly. The woman just did not forget. The woman in charge made sure that shelters got the money they needed. If someone was cruel to animals, they got in trouble. People with power had to be kind to others because that is what the woman in charge wanted. The woman in charge made kindness very important. Lucien looked at her. He felt something that was really close to love. He was watching her. It was like his heart was telling him that he really cared about her, that he was falling in love with her with the way she smiled and the way she laughed, and it was a feeling that scared him because it was so strong, because Lucien was feeling love for her. He told me that I changed him. He said this in a voice. She smiled. You just remembered how to do it. When he took her hand, nothing bad happened. The world just kept going. It was like any day. He was holding her hand. That was it. The world did not end. The wound got better. Moral: never measure worth by status. Never mistake kindness for weakness. And never underestimate the girl the world chose to ignore. The end.